I am Barbara Seidl. I'm an Associate Dean for Teacher Education at the University of Colorado, Denver. And alongside me are my colleagues, Cindy Gutierrez, who is the Director of Office of Partnerships, and Suzanne Arnold, who is our Director of Teacher Education Alternative Licensure Teacher Education. And today we're going to talk with you about our teacher preparation pathways at CU Denver. And one of the first things we want to entertain is why would we be talking about the concept of pathways and how do we go about doing them? And I don't know what teacher education is like in the state that you might be teaching in, but in Colorado, we're kind of in a very shifting political statewide landscape as well as national landscape. So the why of the many pathways is really framed around needing to be tenacious in teacher education because there are a lot of people who are coming in or who want to come in to replace us, who feel that they could do it equally as well, and sometimes they claim even better. So in that kind of shifting landscape, we know we have to speak back against the idea that is often leveraged against us that we are a traditional teacher education program. And when people think traditional, they think of a model that we probably haven't used for 20, 30, 40 years, which is save the last semester for student teaching, and that's the only time our students ever have in the field. So we're pushing back against this stereotype that's been used against us. And in the multiple pathways, you'll see how creative and innovative CU Denver has always been and the way we move forward in that innovation. There's a shortage of teachers in Colorado and beyond. Specifically in our rural areas, there's a desperate need, and we're really talking desperate. Schools where there haven't been licensed teachers for years in math and science and other high needs areas. And there's a shifting policy for licensing in Colorado, a new bill going up before the legislature that will remove the need for teacher license in rural Colorado in what they call innovation zones. And so we've got to figure out a way that we can work with our rural partners in order to move that high-quality teacher education as a possibility with them. And then we're across the nation really hopefully experiencing this need for raising the quality of early childhood education teachers and getting more and more teachers in early childhood settings with a BA. And so we're in this kind of landscape, and the ways that we've worked within that to really situate ourselves as good partners in the state and with our other constituencies is to really think about access and fit for different kinds of students. So we do have that traditional student who comes in who from the time they were 8 years old and forcing their sisters and brothers to play school who knew they wanted to be a teacher and they come in for a BA. We have people who know that they want to be a teacher, but really financial hardships and not really knowing how to navigate the context is a challenge for them. So we have a program that is a pathway for first-gen students. We have people who think about going into teaching later in their lives after they chose being a banker and found out it wouldn't work for them, and we have an entryway for them. We have a quick entry that's really high quality for teachers who need to take up a teaching position that year and be paid while they are simultaneously getting their license. So we've used this idea of fit to create our pathways, but we also have really been committed to using the same high quality curriculum across all of those pathways, and that's really what is important to us, the shared commitments and the high quality curriculum.
So this, Barb kind of alluded a little bit to this around the different kinds of pathways. So I just want to give you a quick snapshot, and then we'll talk a little more in depthly about each one, as well as this gives you a snapshot too about the size of each one. So she talked about that education BA. We have a variety of different pathways in elementary, SPED, and ECE, where our School of Ed gets to host that major. That was actually a new change after 25 years in our state, where they said schools of ed could not hold the major for education, and this was a recent change just 3 years ago. For most of what we've had to do in undergraduate, we've had to partner with our arts and sciences colleagues. And so that still exists, mostly at the secondary level. And at the bottom, you see these numbers about how many people are in each of those. We are just embarking on a new partnership with La Junta, Colorado, and Otero Junior College, where we are developing an exact 2+2 four-year undergraduate program delivered completely on-site using that local context. And so that's just getting started this year. And then another innovative piece, we received one of the Teacher Quality Partnership grants a few years ago with our Denver Public Schools colleagues to create a first-of-its-kind four-year undergraduate residency called NextGen. For the longest time, where we really used to sit most of our work has been at the graduate level, so doing post-bac licensure for people who wanted to turn around and were career changers. And so this was a really intense one-year type of program for students to come through and get licensure and an MA. But one of the things as the differentiated pathways in Colorado, and particularly alternative licensure in Colorado, it opened up that market to take a lot of students into more quick entry. And so that's where Suzanne and the talent of her team have developed an alternative pathway called Aspire. And so you can kind of see very quickly across there the numbers of students that we're talking about in each pathway. But what sits at the common foundation across every single one of those pathways are these theoretical principles and commitments to very sociocultural learning theory, social constructivism, and social justice. So really trying to help every one of our candidates understand the unique assets of the children in those communities, to understand the community and the assets that the families in that community brings to that space. Acting on that context as like a text in the way that they teach, and really recognizing the assets of the cultural and linguistic diversity of the students that they're working with. Inclusionary practices, we've had a merged SPED program for years, for probably about 15 years now, where special ed and general ed sit side by side, and there's more in common with that, and that there's this constant interaction of theory to practice and practice to theory. In terms of commonalities around our infrastructure and mediation, extended and very coherent clinical experience is at the base of every one of these pathways. So that's where we center the design of the preparation pathway, is in partnership with our school districts and school partners. Settings that reflect diversity in race, ethnicity, and socioeconomic status, and intensive investment in human resources to really provide the support and mediation it takes to move a highly novice teacher to classroom ready. And truly an investment in partnerships. We've learned a lot about this in our work with Denver Public Schools in our NextGen pathway of an assumption that we held a common way that we thought about partnership, and it's turned out that we didn't hold that same view. And it's interesting, and I think we were one of the first schools in the country back in the early 90s to take up the Holmes Report and develop year-long student teaching, develop professional development schools, and really do that work highly in concentration and in partnership with our schools. So that's what's coming. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Suzanne, and she'll talk about alternatives.
Okay, about 7 years ago, I was working on the MA program. I was clinical faculty. And Dr. Shelley Zion, who is now at Rowan University, came to me and said, Suzanne, we really need to start an alternative licensure program. If we don't get that going, we're going to lose ground and lose footing in the state of Colorado. And so I was tasked with the challenge of getting that program up and running. And today we're the largest alternative licensure pathway in the state of Colorado. We are statewide. But what I'm really, really proud of is the ability of our program to translate what is happening on the what we call the D1 side and all those other pathways, and translate it into the alternative teaching pathway. And I feel like we have a really innovative, high quality, high touch program. That we have, and because we're statewide, we had to come up with a way to make this online. And so we have a multitude of technological solutions to that. One of which is instead of having courses We made the decision right from the beginning to not bundle our curriculum into courses, but to bundle them into what we now call online guided explorations, which are discrete packets, kind of very, very targeted topics with activities that are directly related to practice, which was a shift for me, because we know our teachers are in the classroom full time, so we can design activities that we know we can have them enact in the classroom immediately and get feedback from their what we call our alternative licensure instructor. So they're asynchronous, they're self-paced, and another reason we do that is because they are customized. Our program is personalized. We have folks that come in that some of them have been teaching at community colleges. They have experiences in their life, and we do not treat them as empty slates. We learn and understand what their experiences are, and based on those experiences, we adjust and personalize the program to meet their needs. And we can do that because we have packaged our online curriculum in a very unique way. We also use video coaching cycles. We had a solution. We needed a solution. We're all over the state. I can't have my allies driving hitherto and yonder wasting time on the road. And so we, about 3 years ago, I guess, we started partnering with Athena, which is an incredible video coaching tool. And so our candidates are actually coached. They're touched at least through 2 video coaching cycles every month. We know more about what's happening in their classrooms than we did when we were going in and trying to catch them in-person types of coaching experiences. And those coaching experiences are now tied to the activities that they're engaging with every month in whatever the online curriculum is that they're working with. Then they go through this whole cycle, and I could talk more about that, but that's a different presentation. We also have a professional learning community for those that are in the Denver metro area, which is about 70% of our candidates. 30% are in the rural, remote areas of Colorado. We do an in-person once a month PLC. That's 2.5 hours in our office area. We do video PLCs for the ones that are in remote, and we clump them together depending on, it could be content area, all kinds of different, it could be the ally just pulls their whole team together that they're coaching for a monthly PLC. And then the last one is a personalized support. There is a one-on-one check-in every month with their ally, whether that's done in person, in our office space, through video, Zoom. We use a lot of Zoom videoing, and also could be phone call. But every ally is expected, does touch at least once a month, just one-on-one with that candidate. And the way that this kind of structure goes in terms of the roles, we have what we call an ally alternative licensure instructor. They have a caseload of teachers. And now this is very different from the typical kind of structure of teacher education. I have assembled a team of 9 instructors with expertise in all ECE, early literacy, math, science, special education, secondary English, ELA, English language acquisition, the whole bit. But we try to hit and match them with their strengths with the candidates, but that's not necessarily going to work every time. And so, but they get a caseload and they work one-on-one with that candidate. They know everything. They personalize the program for the candidate and kind of hold the candidate in their palm of their hand and become their trusted, literally their trusted ally through the program. When there is a problem, they know they can call and say, or they text. My folks are on text all the time with their candidates and say, I need to talk with you. I need help. This happened. So that's a key area of our program. We have coordinators that take care of everything. They're like they're my rock in our work, because they help us through all the licensing processes and all the inquiries that we get coming into our program, and ministering. We have a ton of surveys that we administer, a lot of our different assessment tools. They follow up with our candidates on those. And finally, our partnerships are a bit different. I learned early on that the key to our program is partnering with HR departments. So we work very, very closely. I'm about ready to, late spring, I'll go on a tour of Colorado and hit our key HR reps that are out not only in the Denver metro area, but also in some of the areas of Colorado that we service. We work really, really closely with HR representatives, because right now, and CDE, obviously, Colorado Department of Education. We're in 37 school districts with 21 charter schools and 3 facility schools. We're actually really excited. Just this week, we're going to be forming a partnership with a local facility school that has 3 different schools actually in the Denver metro area, and they need special education teachers. And so they're taking some of their paras that have BAs and some of their social workers that have BAs, and they say, I want to be a special education teacher. And so we're going to kick that off next year, and we're really excited about that. So now I'll turn this back over to Cindy.
So I'm going to talk a little bit more about our professional development school residency design. This cuts across both undergraduate and graduate. So as I mentioned, in the early 90s, we developed a professional development school network, and that's been in existence and well supported by our School of Education Administration for over 25 years now. It's with, there's currently 4 districts, urban districts in the metro area, and about 20 different schools that range everything from elementary to K-8s to middle schools to high schools. And so what we do is we leverage those schools as the center of our work, and candidates at various stages in their program engage with those particular schools. But with our undergraduates, we have the ability to actually start them in the community before we ever put them in schools. So we have early on, before their senior professional year, they do a community-based clinical block, and we've organized our coursework in the undergraduate program in the design of what we call these clinical blocks, which always includes field experience, a mediating seminar, and concurrent coursework that's very tightly connected together. So the first one is a community-based clinical block where they spend 2 afternoons in a community-based organization that we're partnering with. And then they're continuing to take on other courses that might be part of their major or the general ed core. In their sophomore year, they move into a learning and development clinical block, where now they're going to spend 2 mornings a week in one of our professional development schools. And this is really primarily focused on early literacy because we do special ed, elementary, and ECE. And in their junior year, they move into what we call our diverse learners clinical block, which is a full day in one of our professional development schools. And again, there's a couple of concurrent courses that those are very closely tied with. So there is a very rich, well-designed, coherent set of clinical experiences starting from the freshman year, going through the junior year. It's at this point that they then have to apply to get into what we call our professional year residency. And this is where they map on actually with the graduate students as well. So our 1-year graduate MA program is almost identical to what you see here with this professional year. This is really full year student teaching. They come through a really rigorous admission process, interview process that includes all of our school partners. That our school partners are selecting who they want to have live the year of the life of a teacher at their school. And we have gradually ramped up the time that they spend. So the first semester they spend 2 days a week along with concurrent coursework going on. Second semester they move up to 3 days a week for the first half and then 5 days a week full time in the last half of that residency year. And so because all of our faculty know they're living the life of a teacher in this year-long experience, everything they teach in those courses is connected to that clinical experience. The key piece that I think makes so much of this work is you have to have the structures and the roles to really support this. So at every professional development school, we have a university site professor. This is typically clinical faculty, not tenure-track faculty. So clinical faculty who spends at least, we say 1 full day a week. You talk to any of my faculty and they say, yeah, no, I'm not there 1 day a week. It's often a couple of days a week here and there, those sorts of things. They partner with a school-based site coordinator. This is often an instructional coach or a teacher leader or an assistant principal who has responsibility for ongoing design and leadership in the building. The clinical teacher is the name that we give to the practicing teachers in that building, and they host teacher candidates at any one of those levels, early clinical blocks all the way up to professional year. So everybody in that building commits to having a role in teacher preparation. And the clinical teachers co-teach. We use a co-teaching model all the way through. So they co-teach and partner and mentor those teacher candidates across those experiences. And also essential to this work has been a very robust collaborative council. I bring all of these key people together 4 times a year for an entire day. And it's in that space where they're constantly interfacing with our teacher ed faculty, where they have a constant feedback loop to us about what's working, we got to tweak this. They're sharing innovation and practices, because teacher ed is a piece of what they do, but we also really follow the good Latin and NER model that this is about simultaneous renewal. So they're also talking about what new professional development are they doing, how are they leveraging candidates in different ways. So that collaborative council is huge in fostering that simultaneous renewal. And as we broaden all of these pathways out, we're developing further structures around a community-based partner network. So in order to have that first clinical experience, we've developed that network. We're just starting to add ECE into the mix, and so really community-based ECE partners are part of a network. And then you'll hear a little bit more from Barbara around NextGen and our rural partnership.
All right, so you've heard how we have addressed the need to prepare quick entry teachers, especially for rural Colorado and in other areas. You've heard how we have created a structure for our undergrad and grad teacher education that really leverages a lot of clinical experience and a lot of support. And now what I'm going to do is map on another pathway that we just started called the NextGen undergraduate residency model, which uses the tools from our other program but adds a couple of things, because our goal here is to increase diversity in teacher education and attract and retain a more diverse pool of candidates. So the NextGen para internship brings local talent in from high school or para pipelines. We add a summer bridge program to that. Our students go freshman, sophomore, and junior year as hired para educator interns in Denver public schools. That mediates a little bit of the financial burden that many first-generation students experience. In their senior year, they move into a full-time student-teacher residency with DPS where they receive a stipend, and then we also offer 2 years of induction for that. And the good news is that in the couple of years that we've been involved in NextGen, we've managed to increase the NextGen students, about 43 of them, 87% of them are multilingual. And so we feel like we've found the right mix to really bring that first generation culturally and ethnically and linguistically diverse candidate to the field. Some of the roles that I just talked about, one of the major roles that we add on is the PEI residency coordinator. This person develops a deep relationship with the students early on in their careers and acts in many ways as a friend, a confidant, a push, a mother, a father, a support system for first-gen students who may not know where to go when they have questions about how to stay in school, how to stay in the field, how to get financial aid, where to go when they have problems with a professor. The next pathway that we're just starting is a rural community college BA partnership, and it is also mapped on to our undergrad pathway that we have on campus. In this rural partnership, we work with Otero Junior College, which is in southern Colorado, and the whole surrounding area is in desperate need of teachers. There's a huge retention problem. The communities around that area themselves are suffering economically from years of job relocation. And so the community college students that we want to get are students who are from that area, who want to stay in that area, who are paras in the schools in that area, and who are invested in staying in the community. And so they get their AA degree at the community college, and our state has an articulation agreement so that any student who follows that agreement can bring the full AA into the BA. And then they come to us for the BA. The degree is delivered locally at Otero Junior College, which is about a 3-hour drive from Denver. Part of the model is that we share advising. It's a cohort model, and it's a very easy transfer. Very similar to the high quality of our clinical experience in our BA, however, is that our students experience clinical experiences across the full 4 years. And in that pathway, a couple of things that I would point out is that some of the important roles are that we hire a CU Denver rural coordinator who is from the community, who knows the schools, who can build partnerships with schools, who can create a cohort and begin to build an identity across the first 2 years into the last 2 years. The last pathway we're just getting up and going is a birth to age 5. In Colorado, we have an early childhood pathway which runs 0 to 8 or 3rd grade. And we also have an elementary pathway which runs K through 8. So there's an overlap there. And one of the things that we're trying to do is attract the full-time ECE child care professional who doesn't necessarily want the K through 3 licensing part. And so we're building an ECE pathway without license where a ECE child care professional can remain in their site and work full-time while they are simultaneously getting their BA. There's some work that we have to do in terms of developing kind of quality indicators for what site we will be able to work with in regards to allowing that be the clinical site, and this pathway is just starting. We were going to try to save some room for questions, but when you have 30 minutes and so much to talk about, it's hard. I think what we hope that you saw here is the ways that we're trying to respond to a shifting political, national and state landscape in terms of preparing teachers and making sure that we are partners in filling the gap and the need for schools, whether they're urban schools or rural schools, and for teachers who are people who are trying to enter the teaching profession but from multiple points in their life. Right?
I was curious about in the Aspire, if you could reflect for a couple seconds about the transition from sort of that master's focus to having this as a new thing, and I noticed that there's a lot more in the new thing versus the old thing, and I don't know how many used to be in the old thing, but you know, how did that happen? Because this is going to be a deal for us. Yeah,
so one of the things I didn't mention is we have just a licensure program, all right? However, at the conclusion of completing our licensure program, they can earn 6 credits by evaluation that they can transfer into an MA that we have, which is a critical pedagogy MA. And we keep that MA kind of reserved for our Aspire folks because we look at it as a year 2 opportunity to keep working with those teachers. And so there's a concentration area that we actually almost kind of nudge our Aspire folks into in that, which is universal design for learning, so that we can go deeper into their pedagogical development in terms of particularly working with diverse learners in the classroom. So we were purposeful in only creating a licensure pathway because these folks need to get a license. That's the number one thing that they need. They need a license. And so I didn't want to muddy it by making them go into an MA. And we didn't push the MA the first couple of years. We're only in year 4 of our program. I didn't push it in the first couple of years because we were just trying to learn our program, honestly. And this year, the cohort that finished up in year 2, year 3, we had 24 of those. Well, we have a total of 47. I didn't mention that we also license Teach for America. We'll just compartmentalize that. We have 47 in our MA program, which is, we doubled our MA program through that. So that was a decision that we made. I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think that one of the things that you saw the explosion in numbers, and we're competing with many other alternative licensing programs in the state, and we had to move quickly and with quality to do that, and we attracted the numbers. I'm sorry, I don't know who raised their hand first. Okay.
I have 2 quick questions. One, state exams or exams for this kind of program, do they have to have those before entry? And then 2, what is your stipend for your residency?
Yes, they must be highly qualified. We don't even touch them until they're highly qualified. We are a fees-based program, and our fees right now are $5,200. They're going up to $5,500 this year.
It's a $10,000 stipend. The district pays that in our next-gen residency. $10,000 living stipend. So we also, though, have just learned that there's a larger push right now with federal work study for undergraduates to utilize work study awards off-site. And that's an avenue that we're exploring of working to develop that kind of a partnership that could help support that.
Available at any university.
Any university.
Contact your financial
Yeah.
people.
One more question?
On your Aspire, what platform do you use for your online guided explorations?
Haiku.
Okay.
Yep.
My question has to do with money. The next gen.
TQP grant.
Yeah, oh, that's how you, okay. 'Cause
We
I-
initially funded it through a Teacher Quality Partnership grant,
Okay.
and, but we are building it into the institutional infrastructure of our school.
Sustain
Yeah.
that, because I like the idea of paying them as tuition.
Yeah, that's a commitment with a university, a commitment with a district who needs paraprofessionals, who would be paying them anyway.
But the next gen, I want for recruiting minority students,
Yeah.
so you bring them in from high school.
Yeah. Then they move into paraprofessional positions paid by the district. And I think we have to turn it over to our colleagues here.